Okay, smiling first. 3, 2, 1. Yeah, good. Thank you.
New life.
New life
for me.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go through some pretty dark periods to appreciate the light.
If God was all powerful, why doesn't he stop things that are terrible like that? It's like one of the biggest questions. No matter what happens in this earth, no matter how terrible it is, God himself came and suffered. It's something that he endures with us.
As a doctor said to me once, Karen, there are things way worse than dying, and living without hope is worse than dying.
You're part of the Connect 20 online summit. Thanks to CBM. I'm Mel Wade, and joining me all the way from Auckland, New Zealand is Luke Weston.
Hey Mel, yes, I need to add a very special welcome to all our friends in the United States and our hardcore middle of the night friends in the UK as well for our next live session. Yes, we can see you online already, and thanks for joining us for this very special conversation.
Yes, Luke. Well, Kathlene Cooke is a great friend of CMAA who joins us live from LA for a conversation titled Equipped for What's Next.
That's right. It's set to be a very stimulating conversation with leading women in media, entertainment and business who are shaking COVID-19 dust off their feet while asking the question that we're all asking really, how do we emerge with purpose and be agile in a constantly fluid world and courageously navigate into the dawn of a brand new future?
Joining Kathlene are three amazing women, Harvard MBA and former global executive of 2 Fortune 500 companies, Diane Paddison, evangelist, champion of the vulnerable and sister of rocker, Lenny Kravitz, Cynthia Garrett.
Well, I wish we could stop and talk more about Lenny Kravitz, but we'll carry on. Entrepreneur Peggy Kim also joins us, CEO of iStand TV, a content studio and creative incubator for young people who believe in the power of media for good.
And joining these four amazing women as host of our Q&A portion of this event is yet another amazing human being, director of CMAA and co-founder of Connect Women, Susan Son. Yes, we love Susan. So let's join Kathlene now for Equipped for What's Next.
Here, and our other presenters are joining us so that you get to see their faces. So they're tuning in for just a moment there. Hi guys. We have Cynthia Garrett who's with us from Los Angeles, and Diane is coming from us from the Midwest in Dallas, Texas. And then we have Peggy Kim who's coming to us from New York City tonight where it's really late there. Welcome ladies, love to meet you. Susan, welcome from Australia for being with us as well and hosting our chat room tonight with us. So welcome, Susan. We love listening to that Aussie accent, don't we, girls? It's awesome. So welcome. Yes, we're here wondering what's next. We've been through COVID, and as many of you know, globally, we are now in lockdown here again in Los Angeles, and many of you are around the country because of the racial unrest that's going on and the injustice that's been happening in our country particularly. So we send our love and we send our prayers out for those who are suffering right now through that, through those who are still suffering through the health issues that COVID-19 has caused, the financial fallout that's happening. And we know that you are victorious because your hand is in the hand of Jesus. And that's the most important place we need to be. So welcome tonight. We hope that this will be a respite to you in many ways, to help give you some information, some encouragement, so that you can emerge from these ongoing disruptions that are happening around the globe and will be coming, I believe, more and more so these days. So welcome. I'm going to, first of all, now have everyone, all our presenters, take themselves off the screen right now and delete their camera there for a moment. And Susan, if you'll stay on with us, I'd want to introduce you as our presenter in the chat room. So those of you who are watching right now and might want to send in a question to one of our presenters tonight, Susan's going to be handling those questions for us. And Susan, thank you so much for being a part of this evening and time with us tonight. Susan is an author of True You, Finding Beauty in Authenticity. She's a speaker, a blogger, and an engagement specialist. She's founder of Get Real Live and the Somo Society. Susan is a passionate leader with a proven track record in building successful and diverse community relationships. She proactively guides organizations through change with harnessing technology in marketing, communications, and business processes. She's a wife and a mother to Philip and her 3 incredible children. And what I love about Susan is she's on the same page as I am. She loves to go hiking and she loves to cook on the side. We all love to eat. Susan, lovely to have you with us. Can you give us some instructions for just a moment on what we need to do in the chat room?
Yes, so the chat room will be open, and as the conversation goes on, if you've got a question in there, just throw it in there. There's chat happening, and then the question and answer will be open. So let the conversation fly, and we'll be watching everything, but have a good time.
Great. Yeah, and I would encourage all of you that are watching to get out a piece of paper and pencil. You may want to jot down a few of these ideas. We're talking about disruptions tonight, innovation, and transformation. And there may be some books that we'll be mentioning, some things that we might mention. There's a resource page for you tonight that we've created. So if you go up and look in the right-hand corner there, you'll see a handout. And you can download that handout later. It has all of our resources from social media and events and books, all those things that you may want to reconnect with some of our speakers and presenters here tonight. So I encourage you to do that. So I'm going to go first of all now, Susan, if you'll take yourself off, and Diane, if you'll go ahead and bring yourself back up on screen for us for a moment. Hi, Diane.
Hello.
I am going to introduce you first of all, but to all of our speakers, I want to ask you this question when I introduce you, and you can be thinking about it right now. We've all been binge watching things. We've all been confined to our homes, but what have you been reading? What are you reading, Diane, that someone could walk away from here and say, that might be something I want to investigate myself? I know we've all been reading the Bible, hopefully. We've all been in the Word. But what could you recommend to us? So Diane, I want to introduce you, and then if you can answer that question. So Diane's book, this may be a book you want to recommend, Diane, is Work, Love, and Pray. That was the foundation in which you started and launched your global ministry, 4Word. And for those of you who are watching, it's the number 4 and then the word word, W-O-R-D. So it's 4Word, but it's spelled out that way. She's the founder and president of 4Word. She is a gracious leader, and I've learned so much about her. 4Word's mission is to build a community of women in the workplace, empowering them to reach their God-given potential. Diane's a Harvard MBA graduate, a former global executive to 2 Fortune 500 companies and a Fortune 1000 company. She serves as an independent director of 2 corporations and 4 nonprofits, one of which is the Salvation Army, and I'm honored to serve with her on the National Salvation Army Board in the United States here. Diane is a national speaker. She's a blogger. She's been featured as a featured columnist in Today's Christian Woman, and she and her husband live in Dallas, Texas. Her husband, Chris, and she had 4 children, and they've just had a new grandbaby, which I know she is so excited about. Those grandbabies are awesome. But I love Diane. I love your heart, Diane. I love how you have graciously led women, that you allow them to be in their talents, within their talents and skills, to be true gems of God. So Diane, welcome tonight, and tell us, what are you reading these days?
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen, and good day to everyone out there. I have been reading Energy Clock by Molly Fletcher, and it's just a fantastic book, along with what you said, Kathleen, YouVersion every morning, and YouVersion Bible, and the Wall Street Journal puts me to sleep.
Great, great. All right. Well, let's have Peggy now come on, and I'll let you delete yourself off the screen there, Diane. So Peggy, her official name is Margaret. Peggy Kim, though, is what I know her by. She's an entrepreneur, an educator. She's a Peabody, a multi-award-winning executive producer. She's coming to us from New York, where she's the founder and president of iStand TV, which is a content studio and creative incubator for young people. Her heart is with young people. I love that. iStand's goal is to promote compelling stories that come from the perspective of hope and authenticity. Peggy's founded Future Now Media Foundation and the Future Now Media Conference. Previously, Peggy was the VP of Programming for Alloy Media and Marketing. Prior to that, she was the Director of Programming and an executive producer for the History Channel, where she's developed over 300 hours of programming in documentaries and nonfiction material. She's worked with MSNBC, Court TV, CBS News, NBC Sports, in the Olympics, ABC Sports, ABC News, on and on and on. She's been there. She also serves at Asbury University as on the board of trustees and for Operation Mobilization in the U.S. Peggy, it's so great just to have you. I've been excited to have you a part of this group because of your heart for the future and the heart for young people. And specifically, I've been privileged and honored to have been helped to formulate the Future Now conference with you and to help launch that. And that was exciting. What I love about you, Peggy, is that you always don't wait. You move forward. It doesn't matter that you don't know how to do it. You just surge forward and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get something launched. And I love that about you. So Peggy, welcome tonight, and tell us what you've been reading.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for including me in this amazing group with this amazing group of women. And big hello from New York to all our friends in Australia and New Zealand. It's wonderful to be connected in this way. In terms of reading, I have to be honest, I have not had the time to read. So it's been a lot of emails because I just came off of producing the Future Now conference, and we just did it last week. But there is a book that I've been actually spending a lot of time talking about, which is called Dual Transformation. And that theme that I was telling you about for our conference has been disruption, innovation, transformation, and coming at it from a business perspective. And so this book, which I have in my hand, so this one, Dual Transformation, How to Reposition Today's Business While Creating the Future. And it's by 3 authors from the Harvard Business Review Press. And it talks about long existing businesses and when disruptions happen and when innovation happens, are they ready? Have they been thinking about innovation from the get-go, or are they caught by surprise? Yeah, right. And certainly in the media industry over the last few years, especially cable, which was a new tech maybe 20, 30 years ago, now it has been disrupted by internet and companies like Netflix. And so it's talking about transformation and how companies can and should be thinking about innovation and transformation now before disruption happens. And of course, we're experiencing disruption in many companies. Struggling.
Yes. Well, it's interesting. That's a great book, Peggy. I'm going to have to read that one myself.
It's the next book.
Yeah, I was just even seeing an article that was published today that it looks like the AMC theaters may go under here because of COVID. The financial disruptions and the change is happening already. And we need to be innovators, don't we? We need to be thinking ahead of time. Yeah, so that's a great book. Thanks for sharing that with us, and thanks for being with us. So I'm going to let you mute yourself, and then Cynthia, come on up. I feel like I'm on a game show here. Come on down. Cynthia Garrett is a longtime television host, and what I love about her, she's a barrier breaker. She's worked on dozens of network and cable TV productions from VH1 to Fox to ABC. She was the first African American woman to host a network late night show called NBC's Later with Cynthia Garrett. With a belief that the world doesn't need another talk show, but we need a walk show. I love that. She's launched and created The Sessions, which can be seen on TBN. Cynthia is a popular speaker on topics of identity and media, and she's an ordained minister, a graduate of the University of Southern California School of Law. She also holds a certificate in comparative law from Oxford University. In 2016, Cynthia published her autobiography, Prodigal Daughter, A Journey Home to Identity, and has also released just this last month her second book, I Choose Victory, Moving from Victim to Victor. Perfect book for what we need right now, Cynthia. She's married to the love of her life, Roger, and they have one son, Christian. I cherish my luncheons. Yeah. And I'll continue here. There you go. I cherish my luncheon. I didn't realize I'd gone off screen here. I was looking at my notes. My luncheons with Cynthia. Let me tell you, she's my sister girl. And I remember the first luncheon we had together. I think we were there about 4 hours. I think the servers were about ready to kill us because we've just been the first there to arrive and the last to leave. Yeah. But we share a love and a passion for women. We want to see them elevated. We want to see them grounded in the word. And I love what she says. She wants to see women never be put in the world's box. And I love that about you, Cynthia. So welcome. Cynthia, what have you been reading?
Wow. Thank you, Kathlene. I love our lunches too a lot. And you're right. We sort of met and it was like we'd known each other forever. So I'm grateful for that. And, you know, because of everything that's going on here and because I've been getting asked to comment so much about race and media and race, I have actually been looking a lot at quotes from Malcolm X's autobiography and Martin Luther King's autobiography while I'm sort of doing a study about 1 Corinthians 13 and love and really looking at the whole concept of peaceful protesting and versus rioting and rage and pain. And, you know, it's interesting as a woman of color, it's a study of myself and my own feelings, and also really, I think, a real informative deep dive into the two schools of thought, you know, on change, how you bring about change. So I've been, it's a little heavy, but that's what I've been reading right now.
That is heavy, but you know,
so heavy.
That's good though. And I love the juxtapose of those books together because that's what God's calling us to. He's not calling us to lash out in anger, but to lash out in love. And I think that's the first step. And what we're going to be talking a little bit in our interview coming up here, a little bit about where your background has been and maybe some steps in which we can take to some action steps of love that we can take. So I'm just going to begin tonight, and Cynthia, we'll see you in a minute. And I'm going to ask for Diane to pop her face back into the screen so that we can see her again. And Diane, I'm going to start with you tonight. Again, Diane's coming to us from Dallas, Texas, so it's much later there, and we appreciate you staying up tonight, Diane, for us and getting on. You have gracefully worked at very top levels within business. You've taught me so much about organization. I'm a creative, and I like to kind of go off and do my thing. And Diane's taught me so much in a gracious way. But what made you depart from those high levels of business and focus to begin your ministry Forward Women? Tell us a little bit about that, and a little bit about why it's so important to see women flourish within the business and corporate world and leadership right now today.
Yeah. Well, Kathlene, as you know, I am so passionate about this topic because I really believe that when you have women, Christian women leaders in business flourishing, that there's going to be so much that happens because they bring business to help others. And when you have economic changes happen for the better, then you solve a lot of other issues. And so when we talk with your second question, I'm going to share a story of a specific woman who has been a mentee at Forward that disrupted what has been going on with women in Uganda, and how her company Seiko was used to transform women's lives. So that is what I look forward to sharing. And I know you asked me to give a little bit about Forward and why. And so what I saw was I was on the global executive teams of 2 Fortune 500 and 1 Fortune 1000 company. The second thing was I saw this, and I was the only woman in those companies in their global executive team. Second, I saw an issue of confidence with women that I was working with that were on my teams. And third, there were some demographic shifts that happened throughout my lifetime. Women in the workplace with children that are 18, the amount of college degrees going to women, and the percent of families where women were the primary breadwinners. In my lifetime, those have all gone up at least 30%.
Right.
So I knew there was a need. So I thought, let's go out there and help somebody that's doing this. Well, the shocking thing was when I looked for a ministry led by women for women in the marketplace that was global or beyond even one city. In 2009, there were 0. So I basically said, okay, there's a need. There's nobody doing this. I'm gonna found this ministry, and I had some great people around me. And so in 2011, we launched www.forwardwomen.org. And today we have 132,000 women involved. So
awesome.
That just shows there was an unmet need, and God gets all the glory for that, for what's happened. So that is our vision, is to build a global community of Christian women in the workplace. Why?
Awesome. Yes.
So that we can help them reach their God-given potential with confidence. And we do it by being real, passionate, faithful, and in community. And we do it by connecting through our digital community, our local groups, and our mentor program, where we've had 560 women go through.
Wow.
And so we've just seen great outcomes. You know, for specifically, their leadership is enhanced. Their relationships professionally and personally are deepened. Their spiritual life is integrated in all parts of their life, and their confidence grew. And so during these times of disruption, I think Christian women are going to be a big part of helping change happen and to transform the world. And I wanted to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Yes. So Diane, what would be the one question or the one thing that you could leave with us tonight to women as we are living in these times of disruptions, uncertainty? We don't know whether our businesses are going to be even survive COVID, and now so many businesses are being destroyed here in Los Angeles and other parts of the United States. What is the one leadership skill or one leadership thought that you could leave with us in helping us get through these times of uncertainty right now?
Well, when I thought about the women I have the chance to be around, the thing that stuck out to me, which I'll share the story when we get to the second question, but Holy Spirit inspired decision-making with confidence and increased communication.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you know,
beautiful.
when I look at people that get through this time, that's my summary.
That's awesome. Did you have some slides that you wanted to share with us tonight, and some handouts there?
You know, the only one I'll share right now is just the Forward website. So you see where you can go to learn about this global community of Christian women in the workplace. But as we get to the second question I have some more slides that I'll share.
Well, let's just go into that second question. how are you making women flourish? Can you share with us a little bit about that in the process that you've gone through in creating Forward Women and some of the testimonies that you've had?
Sure. Do you want me to go into the
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, let's go on into it. Let's just get to it.
Okay.
Love it.
So, when I thought about disruption, and I just shared that a Holy Spirit inspired decisiveness that gives you increased confidence and you increase communication, I'll share the story of Liz Bohannon. So I'm going to go to the next slide, please. Liz was one of the first speakers in 2011 at Forward, and she became a mentee of mine and a dear friend. She felt called to start a fashion company in Kampala, Uganda, so that she could disrupt the typical cycle of life for women in that city. Seiko is a socially responsible company with a triple bottom line. The next slide, please. 8 years after the company was founded, Liz, through one of her mentors in the Forward Mentor Program, transformed her business from selling all their products out of boutiques to being a multi-level marketing company. And through this, in 2017, their business tripled. 136 women had now had the chance to go to university because of Liz's heart to help these women out of the typical cycle that they are in Kampala, Uganda. Now, these 136 women now are going into jobs like banking and social work and pastors, etc., in Kampala and changing this area of Uganda. So now, we'll go to the next slide. In 2020, COVID-19 hits. And the great thing was Liz was selling this product in her first 8 years out of boutiques, which today would have been totally bankrupt. But she moved it to this multi-level marketing company, and that she called the people that led these in-home parties her fellows, right? And so now COVID hits, and she's thinking, what am I going to do? Because in home, right? And we're all supposed to stay in our own homes and shelter in place. And the second is it's a fashion company. It's nothing essential. And so she went to one of her mentors and said to him, what should I do? And he basically said, Liz, close up shop. Your companies in your industry are going to have such a hard time. Well, she decided, I am going to go out swinging. And so praying about it, getting that Holy Spirit inspired decisiveness, she immediately said, we're not going to be able to have our national convention. I'm going to shut that down. I'm going to lay off our event planner. I'm going to take all of the salaries down to 25%, down 25%. And then new things we're going to do is we're going to pay all of our in-home fellows so they can do this on Zoom, no matter whether anyone buys anything or not. We're going to pay them every week rather than once a month. We're going to focus on products that are much less expensive. And then one morning she woke up and heard God say, coffee. So she started a Ugandan coffee line. And this came out about 2 weeks after COVID hit. Well, in 3 days, she sold as much as she had projected in a month.
Wow,
so,
that's awesome.
And April was her highest month she's ever had.
Wow.
So now all the employees are back to 100%. And so I just really saw how that Holy Spirit inspired decisiveness with confidence and increased communication, because she talked to the fellows once a week versus once a month. I mean, it is just amazing to see what's happened in the last 6 weeks.
That's just fantastic. I love these stories. I love stories like that in which women have it all within them, don't they? And yet it's God who brings it out and allows us to bring out those innovative parts to us when we just rely on him. Oh, what a great story. Diane, thanks for sharing that with us. Susan, I'm going to go back to you. Diane, keep on your screen there. And Susan, you're going to pop on. Do you have a question, a real quick question for Diane in the chat room?
Diane, I guess one of the questions that is coming up is, with all of the platforms that you've held and the spaces that you've occupied, what has been the most challenging thing you've faced in leadership, in your journey of leadership as a woman?
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think really the hardest is just being sure to always go to the Lord first. You know, when you go to the Lord first, then any of that anxiety or fear. I mean, even tonight we had a little issue with an email link, and I just went, you know, relax. God's with you. He's going to do this. We're going to get there. And so I think, you know, just in those situations where you have this feeling of anxiety or fear, just always remember, you know, go to him.
That's a great word. Really great word.
Do we have time for one more question with Diane?
Yeah, real quick one, and then we'll keep going. Yeah, I'm watching my time.
Okay, this is the quick one. Rebecca in Townsville has asked, what positive changes for women do you see in light of COVID in 20 seconds?
Well, you know what? I think women do a great job of being able to work out of their home. They're able to be with their families. I'm able to be with my husband way more than I ever was before. And
Yes.
so I think the opportunity to bring your whole life together through this time where we've been able to work out of our home, probably we're more comfortable with than maybe some men are.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you. Thanks, Diane, for being here, and just hang in there. And Susan will come back to you as well. So if you guys will take yourself off the screen, and then Peggy, if you can get yourself on the screen.
Kathleen, I think you're muted right now. There
Am I still muted? Okay.
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
You're good now, yes.
Okay. So welcome from New York City. It's late there, I know.
Yes.
At really high levels in media and entertainment.
Well, I worked my way up.
We all work our way out.
Yes, it was very much a micro steps here and there.
And it's been a delight to know you over the years, to assist you with getting Future Now off the ground, you joined
us for that very first year.
Yeah, I remember being in the Marriott Hotel in Brooklyn, or in Brooklyn there. So tell us a little bit about your passion, how your Future Now got started, working with young people in media, and why that's so important to you in your life right now.
Yeah, I'll try to do it in a short way. So my career, I've now been in the media and entertainment industry, you know, in my profession for not quite, just almost 30 years, and it's kind of mind blowing to even.
So you were 10 when you started, in other words, right?
Yes, I was a media prodigy. But yeah, so it's been a long time, and you know, when I started, I didn't have mentors. I didn't have someone taking me under their wing, and I just had to figure it out. And I think a lot of my peers, you know, women especially, we just had to figure it out. And then if you add on top of that, you're a person of color, it's that much more challenging. And you know, I'm at that point right now where I could continue to have a corporate career and do all of that, but I really feel that my calling now is to take those almost 30 years and now leverage the track record, leverage my reputation, leverage my relationships in order to now help the next generation coming up behind me. And one of the things that I have observed, to my shock, honestly, in building more, opportunities and talking to younger people and younger professionals and college students that I've had the joy and pleasure of working with, as they've come in as interns. I've spoken on campuses, and my alma mater of Williams College, they're reaching out to me, and in those conversations, I've really been burdened by the fact that they're facing the same kinds of challenges that I faced when I was starting out. And how can that be? And, when so much time has passed, that they are facing the same kinds of problems that, I mean, even problems, they're challenges, there were obstacles, but they're facing the same things that I was facing when I started. And I was like, this has got to change. This really has to change. And so really, with iStand TV and Future Now, these are two sides of the same coin. iStand TV is more focused on content and content incubation and content creation. And then the Future Now is about building future leaders, more on the business, I would say business tech, and as well as content side, but using that is a leadership incubator. And then the iStand TV is a content incubator. And through the conference, the Future Now Media and Entertainment Conference, we did that first 4 years ago. And, it was a project of iStand TV. And HBO was the first sponsor at that time. And then because of HBO coming in, other networks came in as sponsors. And so we were able to put on that first conference. And it was small, it was intimate, it was humble beginnings, but there was something very, very special that happened there. And I was like, wow.
I was there, I remember, I loved it.
I mean, just the impact. And this is not a Christian conference. This is not a faith-based conference. I'm dealing with sponsors who are, these are mainstream media companies. These are not faith market companies, mainstream media companies. Students also, I cast a very wide net so that it's truly diverse. So I'm very intentional about this because I think in the industry, in the media industry, and, we've seen a lot of articles written, Oscar so white and, all those kinds of things. And the industry has been paying more attention than ever before on diversity and inclusion. But it's still coming from a place of, it's a problem. We need to throw money at it, and we need to make ourselves look good and cleanse our karma and all of that kind of stuff. And there are people who are doing important, impactful, deep work from a very sincere place. But then you've got others who are just like, we just need to make the company look good by being involved in this, that, and the other thing. And, I am trying to change that from the inside out. And I'm looking at future generations. How do we help build future leaders now? Which is why it's called Future Now.
Right.
So I cast a very wide net for these students. They are coming from every geographic location, every socioeconomic background, every racial, ethnic background, from different, they're, coming from different religious traditions as well, and, different, gender and what have you. But as a believer working in the business for all these many years, my motivation is, and my perspective is to tell the truth. How do we pursue the truth? If we pursue the truth, we will come more together. If we do that with rigor, if we do that with honesty, if we do that with humility. And so, with all of the students, with the speakers, it's truly diverse. And that's, I think, what God has always intended.
So coming from the conference, you just had the conference just a few days ago. And, and I'm sure some great directives have come out of it. Some great information has come out of it. Like, where are we going after post-COVID-19? Where are we going in the future? Can you share one or two of those directives and innovative ideas that have come out for young people out there that are looking for jobs, that are uncertain about their future, and what they could be doing to help help themselves go forward in that?
Yeah, so it actually just dovetails to what I was just saying. To be honest, because I was so busy just organizing the conference, I was not paying attention to the news at all. So I didn't know what had happened with George Floyd. I had no idea. And this conference started on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Thursday night, I got on a choir call, because I'm in the church choir. I've been in the choir at my church for 25 years this past January. And we have a Thursday rehearsal normally, but we've been doing that online. And our choir director was talking about something and I was like, what? I don't understand. What is he talking about? And so I had to look it up. And then just my heart I was just broken. And I was like, I have to address this with the students. And then sure enough, in the morning before the conference began, one of the student attendees had communicated with one of my app producers, and he had forwarded the message to me. Hey, this has been such a phenomenal conference, so stoked for today, but is anyone going to address what's been happening? Because I'm really disappointed that nobody touched on it. And of course, that was just, again, another confirmation that I can't not address this. This is what is foremost on the hearts and minds of this generation, for all of us, but especially for these young people. And again, they are coming from every tribe, every nation. They are Black, they are white, they are Asian, they are Hispanic, they are everything. And so, I prayed, I cried, I called a few people. I said, please pray for me, because I know that I need to say something. I'm not quite sure what I should say, because it can just go in so many directions, but I needed to be God speaking through me. It's got to be Him. It's got to be His voice, His word for this time, for this audience right now. And again, these are not Christians, right? So I can't throw Bible verses at them. Not that I would be doing that in the first place. Yeah. But as Christians, we kind of tend to do that. We throw Bible verses at something. We'll spiritualize it, but how do you make it practical? Mm-hmm. How do you apply those biblical principles and make it real? Mm-hmm. Make it come alive. So they're not just words, and they're not just weapons that spears that you throw here and there. But how do we make that come alive? And I spoke, I in the first 10 minutes of the conference, which I had been doing each day, I was like, okay, first of all, I'm going to celebrate the class of 2020, the graduating class of 2020. So I had 2 slides of everybody's name from the class of 2020 with their school names. And I read off each name, each school. There were 44 out of the 138 students. And then I said, you guys, this graduation is not what you expected. It wasn't the way that you had hoped to celebrate it. And you had to do a lot of transitioning from being on campus to going online, and that's been tough. And then you're not able to gather and celebrate together in person. And you're scared about the future. You're anxious, like, what is my future? What am I supposed to be doing now? Who do I call? How do I get a job? How do I pursue my dreams? And then on top of that, what's been happening over the last few days, which is, it's not just about the last few days. This has been going on for years, for centuries. And
since Cain and Abel.
Yeah. How what is the word? What can I say to you for in the context of this conference. And you guys are, we've been talking about future leaders. You guys are future leaders. And you know, there were 2 moments where I had to hold it because I just couldn't, I was just going to break down, and I just kind of did. But the word that the Lord gave me was, for them, I said, you have to pursue the truth. You know, you are storytellers, you are aspiring filmmakers, you are documentary filmmakers, you are journalists, you are future business leaders. And, you know, if you look at the makeup of this conference, and you look at each other, and you look at all of the speakers and mentors that have come through, and you can see the diversity. You could see it. You can feel it. And it's not just the external. It's people have different perspectives on things, different lenses on things. And in this country, unfortunately, it has been coming through there's been a color filter, judge based on color. And we got to cut that out. Got to cut it out. That is not what this is supposed. This is not
right. That's not where we want to go.
I am a person of color. I can't escape the fact that I'm Asian, and nor do I want to be. Yeah. But if you're looking, so you're making a judgment based on first the external, and you're looking at me in that one-dimensional way, or we're doing that to each other. That's not it. No. You know, that's not it. And so the onus of pursuing the truth when you were doing the storytelling, when you were doing the research, when you were trying to understand something, don't also just, you know, fall into the trap of social media where it becomes, oh, just follow this or just like this.
Right.
And then
momentary
that's
truth. Yeah.
What do you stand for? Again, I Stand TV. What do you stand for? And do you understand why you stand for what you say you stand for? And then as journalists, as people working in media, it's a tremendous responsibility that you have.
Right.
Tremendous responsibility. And so that pursuit of truth requires humility, it requires rigor, and it requires not giving up.
Yeah. Exactly. And listening to what's going on out there. We have to listen. We have to know that we're listening. Great comments, Peggy. We're running a little short on time as usual.
Yes.
We women like to talk.
Sure.
So I'm going to scoot us along. Thank you so much for your input. And I know as on the resource page, if people have more questions and things they want to connect with you on, they can. We have a real fast little question from our chat room from Susan. Susan, if you want to pop in real fast with a real quick question, and then we got to move on so we get everybody in tonight.
Okay, first of all, hi. We could all sit and listen to you forever. Thank you. That was fantastic. The question we have is, with everything that's happening and everything that you have kind of pulled together in 10 minutes for us, when it comes to young people, what are you looking for? What should young people be going as future leaders, as people who are going to be running organizations? What are you actually looking for within a young person, and how do they stand out to you?
I'm looking for attitude.
Yep.
It's attitude. It's teachability. And that at the core of that is humility, and it's teachability. Are you teachable? Are you moldable? Mm-hmm. You know, those are the people that I'm attracted to, whether they're old or young or anything in between. It's that mindset of being teachable, of listening, of wanting to serve, and the root of it is humility. Yeah,
that's
great.
Good.
That's good. Very good. Well, Peggy, hang in there with all those young people. I know they're challenging these days. When I worked with Biola students and their university students, I know they can be challenging, but they're important. We love our youth. And we love those young voices. We love them coming from all the ethnicities, all places in their culture and their world, because it adds to the beauty of who we are and the creativity that we have. So thank you for your passion in working with young people, especially. And so I'm going to have Cynthia pop in now and join us. Cynthia, you are a blessing to me. As I said, one of my sisters that I love. You come from this incredible entertainment background, and but your life has come from a past of a lot of challenge, a lot of abuse, and struggles with injustice. Many feel that as we've gone through COVID and now these riots and the fallout from the George Floyd brutality that we've seen, terrorism, financial insecurity, all of these things are almost a way of assault on us personally. And you have had to deal with assault on your personality, in your life. How can we renew our hearts and our minds that God calls us to, so that we can change and be agents of change, agents of restoration today? Give us a few insights on your background and how you've helped women with that in the past.
Well, gosh, big question.
Yeah, I know. Just a little question.
It's the short answer is, you have to figure out how to choose victory over the circumstances of everyday life that try to victimize you, first of all. But the longer version and the reason why I say that with such confidence and authority is because I understand what it's like to be a victim, and I mean, just a short run through of my testimony. I was sexually abused as a child. I was raped as a teenager. I'm a cancer survivor. I was a single mom for a period of time after my first marriage, which was incredibly abusive, very, very short, thank God. And I got out with my life. And then I landed in Hollywood and started working. I sort of shot out of a cannon, and had my own television shows and was producing and writing and selling TV programs and really, really experiencing sort of the marginalization that you experience as a woman repeatedly in the industry. I often found that there was also a lot of marginalization, because I am a Black woman. I felt marginalization because I think women get a ton of stuff, right? So if you're decent looking, I would oftentimes realize, oh, okay, I have to play the dum-dum for this person because they can't deal with my looks and my education and my, and my heart and passion all in one. And I graduated in the top of my class from a top 10 law school here, from USC. And, I think through the years, justice was always such an incredible concept to me, because there is often no justice in the world. And in writing this book, a few years ago, I realized that I had been pulling from the treasure chest of my story, all of these different lessons and weapons that I've acquired because of the things that I've gone through and what God has taught me. I was using in ministry. I was using to speak into other people's lives in leadership. I have TV programs in which I do a lot of outreach to young people and to women. And I was encountering a lot of, I can see abuse on most people. I can see it a mile away. And so it's like God goes, oh, here's another one. Here's another one.
Yeah.
And so, after a few years of that, and I really shared my testimony in my first book, which is called Prodigal Daughter, A Journey Home to Identity, because I realized that all of it has been about identity. We are attacked in our identity from the day that we arrive into the world. And if you don't understand that, you'll go nuts thinking there's something wrong with you, But one of the things I learned is that it's not that there's anything wrong with me. It's that we live in a world, and Jesus said, in this world, you will have tribulation, but fear not, I have overcome the world. And so, there was a point in which I decided, one day talking to the Holy Spirit, because I love my relationship with the Lord. It's active 24/7. And I was like, I was like, okay, God, I mean, my story is your glory. My history is his story. You've made a mess out of my message. What can I, but I'm tired of talking about being a victim, and I literally heard, teach them how to choose victory. And God,
good.
God took me on a journey where he showed me that most people do not choose to be victims. They don't. I didn't choose to be a victim. Children don't choose to be sexually abused. Women don't choose to be harassed and marginalized. They just want a job. They want equal pay. They want to be paid commensurate with their brains and their work ethic. And children in Africa don't choose to be starving there. Right. So I realized, so God really was clear. He's like, look, most people don't choose to be victims. They just don't know how to choose victory. And so that became, in my ministry and Cynthia Garrett Ministries and in my organization, it has become this real passion for me. I call my shows walk shows. I've hosted a ton of secular network talk shows. I used to sit in with Regis, and I've done all the big shows. I've had all the late night network shows. But the world just didn't need another talk show to me. It didn't need anybody else trying to glorify itself on a pedestal and teach women about makeup tips. To me, I just,
Thank you.
I'm
Thank
like,
you.
I love fashion and makeup. Yay. However, I was always the girl, who wanted to go deep, and I think we were talking about it a little earlier. I think I came out of the womb heavy. My son asked me the other day, he said, Mom, were you always this heavy? Were you always this deep? And I said, I prefer depth. And so the world to me needed a walk show. Like, so how, and it's my life. How do I teach other women and men now to take their mess and translate it into a productive, powerful life and a choice for victory? And so media has just always been the world that I'm in, whether it was starting in front of the camera, writing, producing and organizing. And it's just always been the world that I've been in and all of my friends are in. And so my passion is looking for the ways that I can share the gospel and bring a message in media. So whether it's secular, whether it's political, or whether it's Christian, I tend to tell people, I don't have a different message for each medium. I'm going to show up and I'm going to be me. And somewhere in the middle of me being me authentically, you're going to hear the gospel.
Amen. Yeah. So what would you tell women out there who are stuck? They are in this world where they need to start grasping that victory. How can they go above and beyond and grasp and hold on to God's hand? And what are some action steps that they can do to get unstuck right now, particularly after the disruptions we've been going through?
Yeah. Well, I like to say stuck sucks. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a horrible place to be. And the enemy likes you to be stuck because the enemy wants to steal your life. And part of stealing your life and your calling is stealing your time. So the longer you stay stuck, the worse it is for you. And some of the things for me that have become very much alive have to do with, number one, forgiveness. You got to forgive. And I could literally speak to you for the next 20 minutes about what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't, because a lot of people have an automatic resistance to forgiving. But the nutshell, forgiveness is not a Disney movie. Forgiveness doesn't mean you forgive the person who sexually abused you, you live happily ever after, and you let him or her watch your child. No, God gives us wisdom and he gives us wisdom and discernment. So forgiveness is about taking my right to judge and giving it to God because he's a better judge.
Amen. So good.
And Jesus's whole gig was about forgiveness. So I can't get in the way of what his gig was because I need forgiveness every day. And then after you get through that, the really sort of, and I go through this in my book, really and truly taking you through the different war zones, the personal war zone, the spiritual war zone, the political war zone, and the victory zone. And so some of the practical tips have a lot to do with personal responsibility.
Mhm.
They have a lot to do with letting go of blame and anger. They have a lot to do with finding yourself an accountability partner, you know, breaking your bad habits. You know, procrastination is quicksand to the person that chooses victory. There are you know, self-doubt. Self-doubt will stop you dead in your tracks. And
Amen.
victims, you know,
Yep.
victims feed that narrative gets fed by these things that are the things that we need to walk in as victors. And
Amen.
And there's a journey, you know, there really is a journey to choosing it. But I'm really proud, Kathlene, of this book. I really am,
Yeah.
because I know that it was the Holy Spirit, because when I turned the book in, my life turned upside down. And I mean, literally, my husband got diagnosed with cancer, and I found out that my sister and my sexual abuser had stolen our life story and made a movie about it. And it was Apple TV's first feature film and Oscar contender.
Wow.
A big, huge Hollywood.
Yeah, a little thing
movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just a little thing. The deceiver comes in, and the liar comes in. Satan comes in and attacks, doesn't he? And this is a book for right now. We need to be embracing victory right now, not being stuck, like you said, because it does suck.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pull us in again. Where I could talk forever, like I said, we had a long lunch that first time. But Susan, come in with a question real fast for us.
Yeah, Cynthia, one of the questions that has come out is, with everything you're talking about and stepping into that victory and all the things that you're speaking about for women, what about rejection? How do you encourage women to step over that whole feeling, notion, experience of rejection?
And I'm going to ask Diane and Margaret, Peggy, if you'll turn off your screens for just a moment more while we finish up with Cynthia, that'd be great. Thanks.
Well, first of all, your feelings aren't real, you know, and you know, I love it. There's a guy here, you know, Ben Shapiro, and he's sometimes a little blunt and not as soft as sometimes we would like him to be, but the facts don't care about your feelings. You know, your feelings are an enemy they're an enemy against your life. They're a weapon in the enemy's hand. So you can't be led by your feelings, you know, and you got to remember that man's rejection 9 times out of 10 is God's protection. And I'm telling you, for those of you who are young, you don't have a big resume with God. When you get to be a little bit older, you will have a bigger resume with God. And I promise you that when I'm feeling bad, right, or when I'm feeling rejected, I look at God's resume in my life. And when I look at his resume in my life, I know this much is true. I can do all things through Christ who strengthened me. And this is where your faith has got to become real. And the more you exercise your faith muscle, it is the same thing as your victory choice. The easier it gets. You know, I mean, I worked in Hollywood, so I learned all about rejection early on.
Yeah.
We've all been there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's a choice, isn't it, Cynthia? It's a choice.
Yes.
I can.
It is.
I can. It's my choice.
It is.
I cannot.
It's your choice to believe the victim's narrative that has been written for your life. It's your choice, you know, or to believe that you can. And I know, you know, look, we're short on time. So I don't want to gloss the significance of the fact that a lot of people really have a lot of real stuff that works against them. But, you know, you guys, I got to tell you, if I did it, I know anybody can. And that's I mean, I say that from the deepest place in my heart, because I'm watching what's going on in our nation today, and everything inside of me relates and feels the pain that all of these people are feeling. And it's turned from peaceful protests into anger and pain and rioting and looting and some other agendas as well.
Violence.
Yeah. But, you know, when you feel overlooked and overwhelmed and abused for a long time, violence does rise up in you. And I'll tell you, the foundation of my choice for victory has truly been my faith. And if it weren't for my faith, I would probably be out there blowing up buildings also in anger and rage, you know, because life's not fair. You know, it's not fair. But
Well, thanks so much for being with us. And I'm going to have you pop off now. And I'm just going to end with just a few things that God's put on my heart and life right now. It's interesting because when Nathan at CMAA and Susan came to me and said, will you be a part of this? Will you host this? It was several weeks ago. It was about 4 or 5 weeks ago. And I always pray and I always ask God, what do you want me to share? And the word authority came into my heart and life. God said to me, I want you to talk about authority. And I thought, well, really? That's just kind of out of nowhere. And it's almost an offensive word to people. They don't, we all want to be our own authorities. But God was saying, no, I want you to explore authority. I want you to share about authority, because authority is at the root of all disruptions. It's the battle between the authority of Jesus and the authority of Satan, the deceiver. It's the battle for our supreme authority that we will have in our lives, in our world, and whether or not we're willing to surrender that. Our feet have to be planted firmly on the security of the supreme authority, and that's Jesus. Because God has different battle plans than the world's. His plans are about love. His plans are about restoration. His plans are about peace. And so I would encourage all of you that are watching to go back and read the story in Mark 11, 27 through 30, when Jesus is confronted in the synagogue. He's doing miracles and he's ministering to the people there, and the authorities, the Jewish authorities, come up and they pose that question to him. What authority are you doing these things in? And I love Jesus's answer, and that's my first point that I would share with you tonight. Jesus answered with a question. He said, I'll answer your question if you answer this question. Whose authority did John the Baptist have? And you see, he caught them they had to stop and think. God's calling us to bring clarity to this culture in this world today, to bring clarity to what's going on today and not be a judge, because God is our certainty. They have their truth. I have my truth. We all have our own truths. We all have our own points of authority. But God then confronts us with a question. He confronted those leaders with a question. And their answer was, I don't know. Because if they chose that the authority came from God through John the Baptist, then they would have to answer that Jesus' authority came from him. And if it was the people's authority, well, they knew then that the riots would happen and the mobs would happen because the people knew that Jesus was getting his authority from God. So we have to think about that. I love how I've been able to watch my grandchildren a little bit more lately since we've stopped traveling. We travel constantly. We were in 8 countries this past fall. And I was scheduled already for 8 more this spring until everything fell apart. But I've been able to spend time with them. And one of the things I've had to pull out is my timeout chair. My girls all have the timeout chair. I think God's put us right now in the timeout chair in COVID. He's put us, I'm in lockdown here in Los Angeles tonight again under martial law, so that we have to shelter here in our homes with curfew. And God's putting us in these timeout chairs because he wants us to think. He wants us to know and grow in him and be engaged with him. And I think that's the first thing that I would leave you is that God wants us to clarify for people, and he wants us to think because he wants us to know him. I'm reminded that Brene Brown said that in her talk on vulnerability, in her TED Talk and her books, she said religion has gone from belief in faith and mystery to certainty. We're losing people because we are forcing them into the certainty of our faith. And we have to actually allow God to bring his certainty to them, his truths to them. So we have to pose a question, we have to tell a story, and we have to walk away. Then secondly, I think I would say to you that God is moving us from our comfort zone, because we're in the timeout. When we're in the timeout chair, we're in a discomfort zone. He's moving us from that discomfort zone into his courage zone. Cynthia talked about being in the zone. A zone is a territory, a place of purpose, because transformation happens when we're uncomfortable. So I love the story of how Peter was walking on the water. Peter then and the disciples had just come from this incredible event. They just fed the thousands with the fishes and the loaves, if you remember. And Jesus goes up to pray because he's always on watch. and he sends them out onto the boat to this tranquil sea. And he says to them, the storm comes up, just like COVID came up, just like the riots have come up, just like the next uncertainty will come up, the financial uncertainty, or whatever disruption that will come our way. Storms were coming up. And here the disciples are hunkering down in the ship, and Peter's looking out and he sees Jesus. And he says, Jesus, if it's you, then bid me come. He's really saying, if you are the authority, then bid me come, then take over for me. And we know the story, how he gets out of the boat, he walks to Jesus, and he looks down. And I think as we emerge from COVID-19, as we emerge from this disruptions and we move into other disruptions, that God then wants us to know that we probably will fail. We will probably look down from time to time. But we always have to remember that he is the lifter of our heads. So he gets Peter back in the boat, and everything calms down, of course. When we're with Jesus, everything subsides. But I love what he does again. Again, Jesus asks a question. He says, why did you let doubt win? We can't let doubt win as we emerge. We can't let doubt win as we emerge from the racial injustice that's been going on. We can't let doubt win when we don't know where our next job is going to come from or our financial stability is going to come from. We have to hold on to the authority of Jesus, because Jesus is the authority. That's my final point. In Philippians 2:9-11, it says that Jesus was obedient, and because he was obedient, that God exalted him and gave him the greatest of all names, the name of authority, and that every knee will bow, not just at protest rallies, not just at soccer and football games, that every knee is going to bow, and that everyone on heaven and earth and in hell will one day bow to him, because he is the authority. Why? Because he was obedient. He was obedient. In Hebrews 5:8, it says that Jesus was the Son of God, but yet he learned obedience through his suffering. And many of us are suffering. We've been suffering through COVID. We've been suffering through the racial injustice for many years. But through our suffering, we can learn and be obedient, and that God then will allow his power, his authority to flow through us. So that would be what I would leave with you tonight, is allow his power, his authority to move out from wherever you are and any disruption that comes, and that you would know him intimately. It's why I wrote my book, Hope for Today, Stay Connected to God in a Distracted World. It's based as a devotional based on a 4-day format, research that says if you'll stay in the Word, if you'll connect with him and engage with him personally, it will dramatically change the direction of your life. So after COVID, after the racial riots, after the financial unrest, whatever after comes next, whatever supposes comes next, I would say to you, know Jesus. Jesus is from the beginning of the book in the Bible to the very end of the book. He was part of the creation process. He was with God creating this earth. Let us make man, it says. And he is going to be with us in the redeeming at the end. So I would say to you tonight that we need to be focused on knowing Jesus. He is who we need to worship. In Psalms 34, it was a Psalms that David wrote during battles. He was running for his life, but it starts out and says, I will worship the Lord at all times. His praise will be continually on our lips. That's what I would leave with you. Know God, let his praise and worship him. So tonight, I want to thank all of our speakers. And if you want to pop back on, speakers, I'd love to see your faces and for everyone to see their faces again, to thank you for being a part of this great gathering tonight. I wish we had 2 or 3 hours to spend with all of you. I felt like I was rushing. I know so many of you through things, and I know there's so much that you have so much more to offer. Please remember that online, all of you that are watching, we do have a resource page that's there for you with all of their resources. Connect with us. We hope that you will do that. Susan, thank you so much for monitoring the chat room. Is there one more question that we would have for tonight for any of our speakers, or a final comment that you would have?
I think a final comment, the question would take us too long. I think a final comment is just to say thank you to all of you. We are women. We are running this race. We're all in our own lanes, and we're cheering each other on. And I think we you know, you guys have exemplified this. We've got our pom-poms on and we're cheering one another on. So thank you for being part of this and being in it with us.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here, ladies, all of you tonight. I know you have so much on your plate. Thanks to CMAA for this great conference, for encouraging us all with this online conference. Susan, thank you for hosting us in the chat room. And I just encourage you again to continue to connect with all of our speakers tonight. Know that God is with you in all of the disruptions, in all of the upheaval that's going on. And there will be more, that he is our victory and that we can move in his victory and that we can take action steps to do so. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We love all of you and we're praying for all of you out there. Good night.
Thank you.
See ya.
Good night.
Good night.